What if the exhaustion you feel, the numbness, the low grade restlessness that you can't explain, the sense that something is fundamentally off about you, even though you've done the therapy, read the books, journaled, meditated, gone to the gym, what if that feeling wasn't a character flaw? What if it wasn't laziness? And what if it wasn't weakness? What if it started before you were born? Stay with me because what I'm about to share is one of the most important things a man can understand about himself, and almost no one is talking about it. Hi, I'm Anthony from strongmencoaching.com, and I've been coaching men for 9 years. And here's what the science tells us. When a mother is pregnant and she is living under chronic stress, fear, anxiety, danger, maybe she's in a relationship with a man who yells at her. Maybe she doesn't know how she's going to pay rent. Maybe she feels utterly alone. Maybe she's being hurt. Her body produces cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It's not evil in short bursts. It keeps you alive. It sharpens your focus. It prepares you to respond. But when it's chronic, when it flows through her body day after day, week after week, during the months she's carrying a child, it crosses the placenta. It reaches the baby. And here is where it gets profound and painful. And for many men watching this, personal. The baby's developing brain, particularly the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the HP axis, which is the body's central stress response system, begins to calibrate, not to a peaceful world, not to a safe world, to this world, the one the mother is living in. The baby's nervous system, before it has ever taken its first breath, begins preparing for survival. Think about that. Before you were born, your nervous system was already being told it's dangerous out there. You need to be on guard. You need to be ready. You cannot fully trust. You cannot fully relax. And then you were born. And for many of you, you were born into exactly the world your nervous system expected. Maybe the house was loud. Maybe voices were raised. Maybe there were things thrown, doors slammed, words that cut through you like blades, words a child should never hear from the people who are supposed to be safe. Maybe it wasn't physical violence. Sometimes it never is. Sometimes it's a mother who is emotionally absent because she's drowning in her own fear. A father who is angry in a way he never explains. An environment of walking on eggshells or reading the room before you enter it. Of learning as a very child that your safety depended on predicting the emotional states of the adults around you. Now, here's what the research tells us about the first 7 years of life. The brain is doing its most critical development work. Neural pathways are being formed, attachment systems are being wired. The nervous system is being permanently patterned based on what it's experiencing. Neuroscientists call this the sensitive period. I call it the window where the blueprint gets drawn. And if during the window, during those first 7 years, the environment conforms what your nervous system was already expecting, the blueprint gets locked in. Hypervigilant becomes your default setting. Emotional numbness becomes your armor. The capacity to fully trust, to let someone in becomes something that feels like an impossible risk. And you don't even know it because it's all you've ever known. You didn't develop these patterns because you were broken. You developed them because at the time they kept you alive. Now, some of you watching this have done the work. You've been in therapy, maybe EMDR, maybe somatic work. Maybe you've sat across from a coach or a counselor and gone to places inside yourself you never wanted to go. And something shifted, something healed. And yet, there are still days, maybe weeks, where you feel this low grade wrongness, like something is slightly off, like you're watching your own life through glass. You can be sitting in a perfectly safe room with people who love you and feel nothing, or feel too much and not know why. You could be doing everything right, the exercise, the sleep, the nutrition, the boundaries, and still feel like there's a wall between you and actually living. You might notice that just when things start going well, when success is close, when connection feels real, something in you pulls back, sabotages it. Return to what's familiar, even if familiar is painful. Because here is something most people don't tell you about healing from early developmental trauma and prenatal stress exposure. Insight doesn't fully reprogram your nervous system. You can't understand your trauma completely, down to the neuroscience, down to the childhood moments, down to the exact dynamics that shaped you. And your body can still respond to the world as if the threat is still there because it was wired before language, before memory, before you had words for any of it. The amygdala doesn't speak in cognitive terms, it speaks in sensation, in the tight chest, the sudden urge to disappear, the hypervigilant in quiet rooms, the exhaustion of always being slightly on guard, the boredom that isn't boredom. It's a nervous system that doesn't know how to be at rest. You didn't just accumulate trauma, you became it at a neurological level. That's not failure. That's biology doing exactly what it was designed to do. And here's what makes it harder for men, especially. We were raised, many of us, to not talk about this, to push through, to handle it. And so we did. We handled it. We went to war, literally or metaphorically. We built careers, we raised families, we showed up, and we never stopped to ask, why does living feel like so much work? Why does being present feel like holding my breath? Why do I feel most comfortable when I'm completely alone and most lonely when I'm actually alone? Now, layer on top of that wired for survival nervous system, the life that modern society has built for men, a life of screens and scrolling, of fluorescent offices and back to back meetings, of mortgages and schedules and routines that repeat day after day like a loop you never agreed to enter. A life of comfort, engineered comfort. And I want to be careful here because comfort is not the enemy, but comfort as a permanent state for a man whose nervous system was never wired for rest is a slow form of suffocation. Here's why. The nervous system calibrated for danger. They learn to survive by staying alert, by staying moving, by anticipating the next threat. That nervous system needs challenge to function. Not because challenge is glamorous, because challenge is the only signal the body knows how to interpret as real. When there is no challenge, when every day is predictable, manageable, comfortable, the nervous system doesn't relax. It flatlines. A nervous system built for survival, placed in a life with nothing to survive, doesn't feel peace. It's like dying slowly. And so the man goes numb. He picks up his phone. He scrolls. He watches. He drinks a little more than he should. He looks at things he's not proud of. He retreats into the one space where he feels a faint signal of something, anything. And the people around him can see that he's gone. His partner can feel it. His kids consented. He can feel it too. He just doesn't know what to call it. He calls it stress. He calls it burnout. He calls it midlife crisis. But underneath those labels, his nervous system is searching desperately for something it was built to need, something that modern life has removed from his daily existence. Now, let's talk about what happens in a man's brain and body when he faces a real challenge. Cortisol rate rises, yes, but when it's chosen, when it's in a context of agency and meaning, the body processes it differently. Testosterone rises, dopamine fires, not the cheap hit from a notification, but the deep, sustained dopamine of genuine effort and earned result. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive function, planning, identity, and meaning making, becomes more active. The nervous system updates its map. And here's what I mean by that. The nervous system doesn't just react to present reality, it predicts. It's constantly running a model of the world based on past experience. For a man shaped by early trauma, the model says, the world is dangerous. You will not be enough. Things will fall apart. Trust is a trap. That model doesn't change just because you've had safe experiences. It changes when you do something hard and survive it. When you enter the unknown and come out the other side, the nervous system has to update the map. It has to say, wait, I thought I couldn't handle this, but I did. That is not just a psychological shift, that's a neurological event. New pathways forming, old predictions being revised. The map is being redrawn, not through insight, but through experience. You cannot think your way out of a nervous system that was built through experience. You have to experience your way out. I want to be direct with you here because I know some of you are hearing the word adventure and thinking, I don't need to jump out of a plane. I'm too old for that. I have responsibilities. I have a mortgage. I'm not talking about extreme sports. And I'm not talking about manufactured risk for the sake of an Instagram post. Real adventure, the kind that actually changes a man. This looks like doing something you're not sure you can do. It looks like getting on a plane to somewhere unfamiliar. It looks like having a conversation with your son or your partner that you've been avoiding for 6 months. It looks like stepping into a martial arts gym for the first time at 43 years old and being a white belt again. It looks like leaving a career that's safe but slowly killing you and building something that actually matters. It looks like sitting in a room with a group of men you don't know, real men, not men performing and being honest for the first time in years. Adventure is an experience where you cannot predict the outcome, where your comfort is genuinely disrupted, where you are asked to be present, fully present because the situation demands it, where you discover something about yourself that you could not have been discovered from your couch. This is what the nervous system needs, not stimulation, revelation. And here is what I've learned working with men and walking through my own healing. For the man who was shaped by early danger, by a mother who was afraid before he even took a breath, by childhood that confirmed everything his nervous system expected. For that man, adventure isn't a luxury, it's medicine. Not just because it's exciting, because it is the right kind of hard. See, his nervous system was built for change. It was calibrated for a difficult world. For years, he survived that difficult world through shrinking, shutting down, hypervigilance, control. He never got to experience challenge on his own terms. Challenge chosen, challenge entered freely, challenge with other men beside him. When he finally does, something ancient in him recognizes it, not as trauma, but as purpose. The same wiring that made survival so exhausting, when it's channeled into a mountain trail or a martial arts mat or a genuine mission or a brotherhood of men who see him clearly, it becomes a gift. His sensitivity becomes awareness. His hypervigilant becomes discernment. His capacity to survive becomes the foundation of his capacity to lead. The nervous system that was built in a war zone doesn't need to be cured. It needs to be given the right war to fight. I've watched men go through this. Men who are exactly where you might be right now, exhausted, numb, going through the motions, disconnected from their wives, their kids, themselves, doing fine by every external measure, dying inside. And I've watched what happens when those men get out of their comfort loop, when they do something genuinely hard, something uncertain, something with other men who are committed to being real, they come back different. Not because of the activity, because of what the activity revealed. They find out they're capable of more than the story they've been carrying. They find brotherhood, real brotherhood, the kind that doesn't require performing. And they realize how profoundly starved they've been for it. The nervous system begins to update, not overnight, not from one retreat or one hard conversation, but consistently, cumulatively, over time. The window of tolerance expands. The man can be present longer, feel more, and shut down less. He starts sleeping better because the nervous system has begun to trust the world even a fraction more. He starts showing up in his relationships differently, not because he read a relationship book, but because something inside him settled. His kids feel it, his partner feels it, he feels it. And one day, and this is the moment I live for in this work, he looks at his life and instead of seeing everything he needs to survive, he sees everything he gets to live. I want to say a few things that most people won't say to you. First, doing the inner work is not enough on its own. Therapy matters. Self-awareness matters. I would never diminish that. But the body requires behavioral evidence. It requires you to go somewhere, do something, risk something. Talk alone will not rewire a nervous system. That was shaped before language. Second, the men around you probably aren't going to save you. Not because they don't care, but because they're in the same fog. You have to be the one who walks toward aliveness first. And third, and this one is important, your struggle is not a character defect. The man who was born to a frightened mother, raised in an environment of instability or danger, who developed a nervous system tuned for survival, that man is not broken. He is calibrated for a world that no longer exists around him. His job now is to renegotiate his relationship with the world, to prove to his own nervous system that he can handle real things without shutting down, to find the brotherhood, the challenge, the mission, and the adventure that his biology has always been asking for. You are not born too sensitive. You were born into too much. There's a difference, and it changes everything. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something genuinely uncertain? Not risky for the sake of risk, but something where you didn't know if you could do it, where you had to show up fully, where you were around men who saw you, not the version of you that has everything handled, but you. When was the last time you felt genuinely alive, not entertained, not distracted, alive? If you can't remember, that's not a small thing. That's information. That's your nervous system telling you it needs something different. And here's what I want you to do. Start small. Today, do one thing this week that you're not sure you can do. Have one conversation you've been avoiding. Get on that mat, get on that trail, get on that plane. And if you're ready to go deeper, if you're at the point where you know something has to change, but you've been waiting for the right moment, I want to invite you to something. We run men's retreats in Colombia, not a spa, not a seminar, an experience designed specifically for men who are ready to stop surviving and start living. Men who carry the weight of their history and are ready to use it differently. We go into real environments. We do real hard things. We sit with real brotherhood and we use all of it, the discomfort, the challenge, the connection as a laboratory for transformation. The link is in the description. If it's for you, you'll know. And if this video spoke to you, spoke something to you, share it with a man who needs to hear it. Because right now, there are men all around you who are numbing out, checking out, slowly disappearing, and they don't have the words for what's happening inside them. Give them these words. That's all for today. You were built for more than this. You always were. I'm Anthony from Strong Men Coaching, and until next time, stay strong.